should parents stay together for the sake of the kids? The Daily Mail columnist Max Pemberton has called on couples to stay married and avoid divorce where possible because it causes so much damage to families. The psychiatrist and doctor said that after writing a column on the topic, readers contacted him to say how glad they were that he was speaking about it. One teacher reportedly telling him it was the #1 cause of problems amongst children in the classroom. So we're asking, should parents stay together for their children? We're joined by the divorce coach, Sara Davison, and Harry Benson, who's research director at the Marriage Foundation. Thanks for your time, both. Sara Davison, welcome to you. There was a look on your face that struck me as one of incomprehension or derision. I'm not very good at reading people. What do you feel? What are you about to say?
Well, you're spot on there. I mean, I think the headline was "Stop being selfish and stay together for the kids." And, you know, I mean, divorce is not something to be rushed into, and it is known as one of the most traumatic experiences we go through in a lifetime. But, you know, if this is forced upon you, you don't have a lot of choice. And actually, there's so many different sides to this. You know, it does make me a little bit angry that they're saying it's selfish, because quite often it's selfish to stay in a relationship where you're teaching your kids what love and marriage is, what a healthy relationship looks like. You know, if it's toxic, if it's not healthy, if you're unhappy, then that is not a message that we want to set as a role model for our kids. And we also don't want to wrap our kids up in cotton wool, because when they get out in the real world, if they've never experienced some of life's challenges, they're not going to be able to cope themselves with getting dumped or having their heart broken or maybe not getting the job they want. So for so many reasons, I disagree with this.
Harry Benson.
Yeah. The short answer is it depends enormously. There are two situations which tend to be bad for kids. One is high conflict relationships, which continue, and that's a very small minority of relationships. And then there's the low conflict relationships, which end. And that does damage because, slightly counterintuitively, kids just don't see it coming. And you might think as parents that you're making it obvious that you're not happy in your relationship or that you're fighting, but the kids don't necessarily see that. And if that's the case, then what happens is that it undermines their trust in relationships because it comes out of the blue for them. And the vast majority of family breakdown comes from relationships that you could define as low conflict. We did one particular study a few years ago where we found that 6 out of 10 married couples who split reported that they were happy and not arguing often. Just a year earlier, and 8 out of 10 cohabiting couples said much the same thing. So the answer is, if you're in a low conflict relationship where things are basically not going well, but you're not fighting, then yeah, absolutely you should stick at it. But if you're fighting cat and dog, then sure. I mean, there's every reason to say maybe it's time to call it a day.
Sara Davison, do we listen enough to the kids who want their parents to stick together? If you ask them, they'd say, we want mum and dad to stick together. Do we heed their voices enough?
Well, again, you know, all different ages of kids is going to have a variance on that. And some children are going to want their parents to stay together, and maybe it's just not the healthiest option. But, you know, I see a lot of children who have grown up, you know, their parents have got divorced, and they're saying to me, you know, I wish they got divorced earlier because it would have made it so much easier growing up. And sometimes saying to your children, well, we stuck together for you, can leave those children with so much guilt that their parents were unhappy. And so, again, there's two sides to this all the time. And I agree with Harry. I know Harry, and I agree with him that it does depend, and the situations, you know, can all vary. But ultimately, I'm a strong believer that you have to do what's right for you in that moment. And there's different ways of getting divorced that don't have to damage children. You know, it can be a valuable life lesson to help them navigate their own challenges later on in life, if it's handled correctly. And that's the important thing.
Guys, it's complicated and we've only scratched the surface, but we appreciate your time. We've got to leave it there. We're out of time, I'm afraid. Sara Davison and Harry Benson, thanks both very much indeed.